I'm Sydney Kain.
And I'm Liza Petrov.
And you're listening to PageFright, where we talk about writing craft, the ins and outs of the publishing industry, and our own personal journeys as authors. So let's dive in. Hey, Liza, did you get up to anything fun this weekend?
I went to a wonderful Christmas party with friends. It's my D&D group, actually. I play D&D every Sunday, and I saw them this Friday. We got together, and everybody exchanged gifts. It was super nice. But it lasted from 1 in the afternoon until midnight, and that was a little long for me.
1 in the afternoon until midnight?
Yeah.
Wow.
I spent Saturday recovering.
What do you do at a party for that long? Did you play a game?
Okay, well, we ate fondue. So that was that's kind of a longer meal than normal because you're dipping and you're dipping into cheese. My friends made this special broth that was also really nice that you could cook veggies in. And then we had to transition over to the chocolate portion. So the meal ended up being hours long. And then we watched a movie, we laid around, someone brought a dog. It was chill. They were
oh, man.
I don't know.
You know, if a dog comes, then it's a legit party.
Yeah, exactly. His name's Copy. He's really, really sweet. He's a black, what are they called? They look like little old men.
A terrier?
Yeah. He looks so cool. And he had a little bow tie on all day. He was like a little old professor.
Makes me think of Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, exactly. I liked that movie when I was little. You know what I also liked? I liked the Aristocats.
Oh my gosh, me too. I love the Aristocats. You know the scene where after they get dumped by the mean old Edgar into the river and they're in that basket and it's raining and they're looking out from their cozy basket out into the rain? I used to recreate that scene with my sister. We would make little forts with our sheets because I thought it looked so cozy in that basket in the rain. So I would always recreate that scene.
That is so sweet. That makes me wish I had a sibling. I'm an only child, so I would have had to recreate that by myself. So cute. I love that.
And that was the beginning of starting to imagine stories.
You know what? So true. I used to, what did I try to imagine? Well, I watched a lot of Xena Warrior Princess with my mom.
Wow.
I don't know if you ever watched Xena Warrior Princess, but
I didn't. My dad was super into that.
Really? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, your dad rocks, first of all. I tried to watch it years later when I was in my 20s. I was so excited to re-see it. It was unwatchable for me. I couldn't.
I know. You can't go back and watch any of your old shows because they will always disappoint.
Yeah, except for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I rewatched that 3 times. It was very enjoyable.
I never watched that, but I've heard that that's where the original enemies to lovers originated.
The original one? Well, no. That can't.
I know. Everyone's like, this is the original enemies to lovers story.
No, it can't be. That's Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy.
Oh my God, of course. What am I even thinking? What am I saying?
But I do like that the internet wants to give, what's his name, Joss Whedon so much credit. He came up with an entire romance trope all on his own.
Wow. They did it. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great show. I loved it.
Well, should we get into our next segment? Now we're going to move into our wait, what segment?
Where we don't. You say that.
Well, now I have to do it again.
Okay. Oh no!
Now
we're
moving into
all this in.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move into our wait, what segment. We don't try to answer the hard questions. We just talk about them. And today we're going to talk about genre blending. And is it a bad word in publishing? Most publishers seem to want books that fall into one category. It's easier to promote and market and to know what shelf it fits on or to what audience will read it. But is that what people actually want? Think of hits like Crimson Peak or Rebecca. They kind of mix horror and romance. And now romantasy, which literally blends the words romance and fantasy, has become a genre all on its own. So what do you think? Any thoughts?
Just love it. And anyone on the production side, the publishing side, it's just like, anyone on marketing, they're like, no, we want clear, we want concise, we want not confusing. And for the writer, that's just not your job. You should be as creative as you possibly can be, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think the publishers don't really like to take risks on especially debut authors.
Yeah.
I think when you have already an established author and they want to play around and they already have an established audience, people that will kind of follow them book to book, then they're more willing to take that risk. But on a debut, it's extra risky for them, which I understand to an extent. But then I don't know if you've noticed this, but I'm really starting to notice in books that they're so similar in so many ways. Like you can almost predict what's going to happen next. And I think it's because of all of these rules that publishers put on their authors. It's like this
Mhm.
worked before, so let's recreate that in this
Mhm.
book. And I
Mhm.
don't really like that because it feels almost like you're in a factory just popping out these books and there's not a lot of
True.
room for creativity.
Mhm. I completely agree. It feels pretty stifling to me when I think about it like that. I mean, I get worried about if I get agented and if I end up publishing,
Mhm.
just what that kind of churn will feel like for me, just the slog of putting out book after book in order to, be fresh and exciting and yet always familiar. And
Right.
that scares me a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but you're closer, because you have an agent, you've been published, you're coming up with so many great ideas for new books. I love everything that you've pitched me so far. I'm really excited to see what you come up with next. So you don't seem like you are running out of ideas. You seem to be coming up with fresh, new, fun ones. How are you dealing with the pressure and how are you somehow managing that?
Coming up with ideas is the fun part. This is the first time I'm really coming up on a deadline, so I have until December 1st of 2026 to get my second book out,
Okay.
and I have to say I am feeling the pressure on that a little bit
Yeah.
because I mean, that seems like I have like a full year to get that out, but there
Mhm.
is this idea of like, okay, you have to finish this book by then and you
Yeah.
have to know what you're doing and you have to know
Yes.
all the twists
Yeah. And
and
you have to be happy with them.
yes, yes. And
That's
you have to do it. Like
yeah.
it has to be good.
Yeah. Like when you write it good enough the first time and
Mhm.
quick enough that if you
Mhm.
don't like it, that you can rewrite it quickly and
Mhm.
like the
Mhm.
second time. That's
Exactly.
the hardest thing for me. I'm just like,
Yes. The
how am I going to
pressure
fit
of
this
that.
in? Yeah.
I get so nervous when I finish a book and now I have to reread it for the first time. And I think I have an idea of what the book's going to sound like, but I don't know really. So when I turn back to page one, I'm like, okay, here we go. Is this actually going to be what I think it is, or is this going to be horrible? And that
Mhm.
pressure is a lot, especially
Yeah.
especially now with knowing I have to finish it, give it to my editor, and this is a publisher that's already given me a deal on this book. It's not like she can just say, no, this just for me to handle. It's not just another rejection.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the rejection.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it sounds daunting, but I know you can handle it. I think that you're you're gonna do great. I've
Well,
seen your
thank you.
writing. It's going to go well. I'm very, very excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, with the first one, Our Love Language is Murder, and this is kind of what inspired this topic today, is that one had such a hard time finding a home with a publisher
Yeah.
because it's blends genres and I'm a
Yeah.
debut. And so many, I cannot tell you how many editors came back to my agent and said, "We actually love this book, but we don't know what shelf it fits on. We don't know how to market this, so we're going to step aside." And it was
Mhm.
the most frustrating emails to get that
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, if you like it, can't you just figure that out?" But they're so risk averse. It's so money driven that
Mhm.
it got passed up
Yeah.
multiple times. In fact, I even made it all the way into a meeting with an editor who wanted to acquire it, and it ended up not happening. And oh my
Mhm.
gosh, it was devastating. So that
It's a
took a
roller
full year
coaster.
until
Yeah.
finally the publisher I have now was like, "Nope, we're taking a they saw the vision and they're like, "We're
Yeah.
taking a chance on you."
That's great. Excellent. And, it goes to prove that or it goes to show that if they like it enough, they're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What would you say yours just well, there's mix in yours. What
Yeah.
genres would you say yours is? Like if you were to pitch it, what genres would you say?
I mean, it's definitely a mix because it's a historical thriller romance.
Mhm.
And I say it that way. It's not a romantic thriller necessarily because it follows for me the rule of a romance book where I want them to have a happily ever after at the end. I think that's just the kind of book that I like to read. I love romance books, but I've always wanted to read a romance book that, especially a one set in a historical setting, that was a little harder hitting on the history. So that's what I ended up writing, where like I'm a history buff. I love history. I did history as my undergraduate degree, and like doing the research in order to write something that is heftier on the
Mhm.
historical side, and reading those kinds of books, like that's just so much fun for me. So creating a romance that encapsulates those kinds of harder hitting aspects, where it's just like there are longer descriptions of there are more people in the book. Like a romance to me often has very few characters.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like the two people, they're two best friends, and maybe a sprinkling of family. And like
And
that's
the X.
and yes, there can be an ex, or like there can be a little bit of build out if it serves the romance super directly. But
Mhm.
in general, they're pretty thin books when it comes to building out a world. And so I looked at what's happening in romantasy, and I was just like, okay, well, romantasy, you get the romance, but you also get the fantasy. You get a beefier world. You get more character. Like Sarah J. Maas, like you have battling fairies, and you have whole houses that are
Yeah.
described of different characters, and I wanted more of that in a romance. And so, but I didn't want to particularly do a fantasy. So going into a historical setting really gave me that outlet. But since it's not strictly romantasy, which is now a set genre, and it's not like a bodice ripper. That's the other thing. Like a bodice ripper is a historical
I've never
romance.
heard that before.
You've never heard that before? Well,
No.
I love historical romances too. So like everything that I say is like I love all the romance genres. I love
Mhm.
straight genre fiction. I like it when it fits neatly in the box. It's really easy. But for this, it's just like I've read tons of historical romance, and it's not it's light on the history, and I want a little bit more. So the closest I've gotten thus far in my search has been Joanna Shupe, whom I love. She writes Gilded Age American
Oh,
bodice rippers
yes.
set in New York in like the 1880s, and I absolutely love her. Actually, Evie Dunmore does a really good job of historical romance. She had this series come out of suffragettes
Mhm.
finding romance, these four suffragettes. It was kind of like Ninja Turtles meets suffragettes. You know what I mean? Where you're just
Yeah.
like, who's your suffragette that you like out of the four? And they each find like a love, but hers is like heavier hitting um history, and I feel like she kind of broke that in a little bit for me. So that's the way that I plan to pitch with a comp title, like one of hers, is just saying like she did heavier hitting romance. You can blend these genres. These books were super successful.
Love it.
Mine can be too. So
Well, and I think that is what readers want. It's what I want as a reader. I want to be immersed in a book, and we've talked about this, and it needs to be three-dimensional.
yeah.
I know you like them, but I personally have a hard time with plain romance because it doesn't transport me into the world in the same way as
I get it.
romantasy does. Now, romantasy, I'm all over romantasy because I feel like I'm there. There's
Hmm.
so much complexity in like the
Hmm.
action and the wars and the history
Yes.
of their worlds and the lineage and how this love came to be and the rules of the land. And I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm a citizen of this world and I
Hmm.
really feel invested in these
Yeah.
couples. And so I think that is where that, first of all, that's true life.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
don't live a life that's one genre. I don't wake up
Hmm.
every day living this happy life and I fall into the arms of my Prince Charming. Or in the same way, I don't fight a battle every day in action. Every day looks different for me. There's different things happening, and that's what we want to see in our books. Some days are
Yeah.
like a horror, some days are a thriller, some days are like action, some
Yeah.
days are romance, and you want to see it mixed together in your
Yes.
books.
Yes. It makes the characters more real.
Definitely.
Makes the romance more fun, right?
Yes.
Like when the characters finally get together, when they
Oh,
kiss or do more,
mhm.
it's great because all of the high intensity drama that they've already been through.
Mhm.
And if the drama was good enough, then it makes the romance even juicier in the end.
Yeah.
I think the drama needs to stand on its own. And that's the beauty of the genre blending for romantasy. It's like the drama stands on its own. They're having their own fantasy adventures. And then you get what I wanted when I was 13, reading regular fantasy books in quotation marks for boys, like reading those books where I was just like, yeah, but what if these characters got together? I always wanted a little bit more of a plot line there that was a little
Yeah.
better. That's it's great for romantasy. I'm so happy about it.
And that makes me think we also want to guess. I don't like predictable books. And when you see things like horror and romance mixed, for example, there's always a part of you that's like, okay, I'm rooting for this romance, but there's a horror element here. What's going to happen?
Yes.
Is this going to be really devastating to me? Is
Yeah.
this going to have a happy ending, a sad ending? And I know you and I disagree on this with happily
I
ever
know
after.
it's been unsaid so far.
I know, but I do not think love stories need to have a happily ever after, okay? I've said it. We'll
Sydney
discuss it in another
loves
episode.
tragic endings, guys. Just don't trust her. She's going to betray you one day.
I find tragic endings to be so romantic in themselves. So
I agree.
I know that's a topic
Romeo and
for another.
Juliet.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay, but we'll get into it another time. I'm not going to go there, but I feel very passionately about this. But I think that that's what dark romance has really started to take off. And I think it's because people are loving the dark element of it well, first of all, when you're in a new romance, there's always anxiety there. You feel that angst and nerves and there's all those fears, and dark romance really plays on that and really.
Wait, are we talking about regular nerves? Like, does he like me? Or are we talking about first date, is he gonna murder me nerves? Or is it both?
I think it's both. I mean,
Okay.
when you first meet a guy, really, or a girl, your first thought to yourself is this person going to hurt me? And you think that both my heart and physically, right? That you always text your friend, I'm going to this location, and if I don't text you by the end of the night, start to worry.
Yes.
But there's also like a thrill in that anxiety, right? There's a thrill of going on this date with someone you don't know, and there's this danger, and it's something different and mixing up your day-to-day life. And so, I don't know, people like to see that in dark romance. And
I think that sounds so romantic. I think people also like rough sex. That's just what I think. I think that there are tons of ladies out there. They want to read about it. They want like softcore or even hardcore pornography that is well written with characters that they like. And I think that that's fine.
like
that
porn with heart.
You coined it. Yes, porn with heart. I love that. It sounds exactly what women want.
But I think too, we are afraid. So there's something about taking our power back when you read something that's dangerous, because men take our power so often. So when you read something like dark romance, where he sort of has the power because he's like this villainous character, but he's really powerless to the woman. So I wonder if there's a way of us getting out our anger while taking our power back, reading these dark romantic books.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of that that's going on with readership of that genre. Definitely. I think that there's also a lot of angst with just basic sexual dynamics. Having sex as a woman is different than having sex as a man. Well, we are going into this.
I know. This is taking a turn.
But I do think that people like to indulge in those darker spaces. And there is something very therapeutic for a reader, even a writer, to write about that subject matter, because seeing a character go through that, like, it's just side tangent, like every story basically follows a hero's journey. Every story that you read starts out with, a character who, is living like some sort of humdrum existence, that they're kind of going through their regular patterns, and then they cycle down into this dark space of adventure and questioning themselves and character change in order to ultimately emerge changed and possibly bettered, possibly destroyed, just a new version of them once they've made it through that underworld pass. And these books, they serve that same purpose where, readers, mostly women, might be looking for a thrill, but they're also looking for that character growth and that character change and ultimately that kind of self-acceptance within that transformation where they went through it too and they're
Right.
okay and they love themselves, they respect themselves and they're like, "Oh, this is kind of fun." And I talk about it with my friends.
It's true. And
It's
actually,
nice.
just thinking of that, what you just said, a lot of those characters start off as more meek and mild
Mhm.
to themselves. And then by the end of the book, they're more self assured, stand up for themselves, sticking up to these opposing male characters.
Mhm.
They're stronger at the end.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that makes for a good story. It makes for something that's really engaging for people and ultimately, I think, therapeutic.
So I hope that moving forward, publishing companies will be more open to taking risks. And I don't like having that in the back of my head where, oh, I can't
Mhm.
write that because now I'm kind of writing into a different
Yeah.
genre territory. I feel like
Mhm.
that really limits me and puts boundaries on me. So
Y
I don't know how I'm going to tackle that moving forward, but I think I just have to write the book the way it needs to be written and then just trust that it will find its home. It will find the person who sees its heart and sees and knows where it belongs.
I agree. Uh, our purpose as writers is not to write strictly to market. Like,
Mhm.
don't try to put yourself into a box. Think outside of the box. Take the risk. You should be my thinking on this is it's a writer's purpose in life to create what they want to create, break rules that they want to break,
Mhm.
and risk their piece of fiction, their piece of art not finding a home for the sake of it being what it is, for it being its own shape. And you could end up creating a whole new genre
Yeah.
if you do that.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. You could also end up creating something that only 5 people read. That's also a beautiful thing in its own self. I think just
Mhm.
because you wrote something and it exists,
Mhm.
that's the most important thing that you can do as a writer.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I think it's scary to accept that. It's
Mhm.
hard to accept that, but I think that's the only way, for me anyway, as a writer, that I'll get peace
Yeah.
is that at the end of the day, I'm writing this for me. We
Mhm.
started writing for ourselves, and it's just a happy accident. Not really an accident. I mean, years and years and years of hard work,
Yes.
but a happy accident that others want to read it too. Yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
agree.
Oh, thank you for chatting with me about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a nice little conversation, genre blending.
Yes. So I hope we see more of that.
Okay, so I guess that brings us to our next segment, um, the meat of the episode. So the title of this episode, "You Can't Love a Bad Book," uh, really comes from uh, my personal experiences with trying to figure out how, how to become a good writer and
Mhm.
searching for good advice and finding that the number one piece of advice that I always hear is the first thing out of agent's mouth. It's the first thing out of publisher's mouth. It's the first thing out of every writer I've ever met is read, read, read. Read a ton. Read a ton of books. If you want to write, read. And I was like, that's cool. That's nice. But like, what do I read? And I wanted to open up a conversation about exactly that. What do you read? Not to tell people a series of titles, but to discuss like, okay, what does it mean to take in media in order to become a professional creative?
Mhm.
How do you do it? What kind of mindset should you go into watching a show, a movie, reading a book, reading a magazine, looking at a piece of art? What's that mindset that you need to carry with you in order to level up and become a professional creative? So, what do you think, Sydney? I'm
Ooh,
just kind of throwing that at you.
yeah, that's a lot to take in. I think just my immediate reaction is that I go into it with two minds. One, am I personally enjoying this book?
Mhm.
And I kind of approach it as a reader. What do I love about this book? And do I feel in love with the main characters? Do I feel scared? Do I feel excited? Do I feel invested? And if I do, then I read it like a reader. And at the end, I think to myself, okay, how many stars would I give this book? And then I say, okay, how did this author achieve making me feel this way? And
Mhm.
sometimes I'll read specific scenes. Sometimes I'll even come in and out of my author and reader brain, where if I'm in a scene that I feel scared or I feel really enamored, then
Mhm.
I'll stop and I will study the structure of that scene. I'll study the dialogue. I'll wonder, how is this author achieving this for me?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then I will just tuck that in the back of my brain and carry that forward with me. What
Mhm.
about you?
That's definitely what I do. I have 2 hats when I read anything now, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, when I but there is something fortunate about it because it's like I like being a creative. I really, really like analyzing what made something good or what made something not bad necessarily, but fail in what I think it was trying to do. Because there are different levels of bad. Like
Mhm.
there's you can read something and it's bad, but you love it. You're just like, I don't care.
Well, then is that bad
You know?
though? If you love it, is it
I
bad?
mean, well, this is what I mean, where it's just like, okay, like it is categorically grammatically bad or
Oh.
categorically it's making mistakes where you're just like, I wouldn't have done that. No, 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 no. And like you are rewriting the thing in your head a little bit, but you still like it had such a good idea that you're like, okay, I gotta go. I gotta go with it. It's just a page turner for me. There's also just like books that books or movies or whatever, where it's just like, I don't know. One of my favorite shows on YouTube is this thing called Best of the Worst. I don't know. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's a movie channel, so I'm a big movie buff. I love movies.
Same.
I see movies all the time. I go to a film festival every year, Fantastic Fest. It's great. It's based here in Austin. So anyway, I love movies. This is a movie channel where it's done by a company called Red Letter Media. They became really big in like 2010 with this Star Wars, like silly Star Wars, making fun of the new episodes video. Anyway, so since then they're like a major channel on YouTube. And this is one of their like side shows. They do movie reviews, etc. Anyway, so this sideshow that they do, they watch really, really terrible movies, like categorically really bad movies. And I just eat them up. I love them. Like I can't n- not enjoy how delicious the badness is. You know what I mean? Where like the ineptitude in the filmmaking or the ineptitude in the writing, where it's just like there is literally nothing going on in this plot and you can't hear any of the actors. And you're like, who made this? That or it's completely and utterly tasteless. For some reason, just me as a creative, I love that kind of stuff. And I like it in books too. I like it in any sort of creative endeavor. And I know that there's an audience for that. Tons of people like those things. So anyway, I digress. Like that can be something that is just very enjoyable, but you just kind of have to be a little bit of a weirdo to like that.
Also, too, when you read something good, sometimes it's hard to put your finger on why is this good? Because
Yeah.
there's doing so many things right and it can be very overwhelming. But if you read something that's bad, then it's much easier to be
Immediately
like,
know.
okay, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed. And then you're starting to think about, okay, how would I do this differently? How would I resolve this issue? And it's a
Yeah.
different use of your critical thinking skills. It's a different problem
Agreed.
solving that is, I think, sometimes easier to digest and less
Yeah.
intimidating because you're coming from a place of being up here rather than
Mm-hmm.
down here looking up. Like when
Yeah.
I read books that I admire so much and I have this sense of inadequacy and it makes
Mm-hmm.
makes it harder for me to analyze their books because I'm thinking, wow, who am I to even
Mm-hmm.
assess your writing? But if
Mm-hmm.
I look, and I think this is terrible though, but if I'm coming from a place of feeling like I'm above this book, it's easier for me to read
Yeah.
it and to think, okay, what would I do differently?
I fully understand that feeling. kind of being intimidated by reading something where you're like, oh my God, who am I to even pick this apart? But also, it's like being an art school student, and you see a Rothko in person, you're like, okay, well, this is like I'm just learning how to paint. But when you see it from above, or at least what you think is above,
Right. Yeah,
like
true.
it can be much easier. And that really comes down to the main point for me. It's just like the reason why they give you the advice to read, 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 read is because you will benefit from the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like you
Mhm.
will benefit from literally everything. You need to be a sponge, constantly soaking up as much media as you possibly can. And I say media because, books for writers, they're lifeblood. You should read them. You
Mhm.
should read everything that you can. But I like imbibing literally everything I can get my hands on.
Sure.
Uh, 'Cause, like, I don't know, movies, obviously they have a relation through screenwriting. Like, they are written pieces of work, and they're highly visual, and you can really bust through a bunch of different stories by watching a bunch of movies, right?
Yeah, I actually take a lot of writing tips from movies
Yeah.
because it's a different way of engaging someone. So it's what senses are they making me feel like, am I feeling claustrophobic? How are they achieving that? Am I
Mhm.
feeling, I don't want them to go around that corner,
Yeah.
when they're like I just watched Weapons,
Mhm.
and when she wakes up in the night and she kind of comes out of her bed, looks out into the hallway and you don't see
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
That part of the movie made me so afraid with that,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Okay, how would I describe that? How could
Yeah.
I make someone not wanna you wanna cover their eyes and not keep reading?" So
Yes.
it just makes you think about something with a different lens and, like,
Mhm.
how can I recreate this in writing? And I think
Mhm.
it makes you more well-rounded
Absolutely.
as an author.
Yes, absolutely. And uh it gives you just a whole tool bag of techniques that like you can constantly hone,
Mhm.
where you you don't have to, like, the first step to being able to write in a specific way is to know that that specific way exists,
True.
right?
Yes.
To know that the tool exists.
Mhm.
And then in order to sharpen it, you have to practice at it. You're going to suck at first, and then you're going to get better and better and better the more attempts that you make. So, seeing all different types of media is just going to give you tons of different ideas. And like to me, that goes for music too. I love listening to musicians' lyrics. My my friends actually make fun of me. Like I barely listen to music for the music. Are you like that? Do you like music for? Do you pay attention to the music and music, or are you
I
like more of a lyrics person?
Well, I'm more of a lyrics person, but I need to be feeling the music. I don't even know how to put words to it. It just makes me feel good and
Hmm.
has to have a beat that's catchy.
I
But
get
what
it.
I mostly care about is lyrics. And that's why I resonate so much with bringing up Taylor again, with
Hmm.
Taylor's lyrics, because
Yeah.
her lyrics are so powerful that
Yeah.
I listen to them over and over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, her writing, her lyrics, it's really good. My personal favorite, so this might be a window into the type of teenager that I was. I absolutely loved this 60s like balladeer Leonard Cohen. Still huge fan of his. He like listening to his poetry. He started out as a novelist, and he like very well reviewed, very well received, and then he went into folk music because he was living in the 60s in New York. Just the poetry that he created. So for the audience members, if you don't know who that is, he wrote that song Hallelujah, the one that's featured in Shrek. I'm not gonna sing it or anything, but you can look him up. His poetry, like it taught me so much about writing, me so much about um what what relationship words can have with each other so that they pop, so
Mhm.
that they
Yeah.
have this
Yeah.
automatic energy behind them and grip the reader. Even if you're a 14-year-old girl and you have literally no idea what this guy is talking about. Like I was listening to it, it was like, I don't know what the song is about. I have no idea, but it grips me and I want to know why.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I think as creatives searching out that feeling over and over and
Mhm.
trying to emulate that, that's that's a
But
great goal.
one thing though that I don't love that happens is that there's so much cliche that comes
Mm,
from that.
mhm,
Like it takes away the power of a moment. So the first time, the kiss made time stop. The
mhm,
first time
mhm,
that was written
mhm.
was probably the most beautiful, most poetic, lyrical line.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
now when you read it, it's very cliche. It doesn't
mhm,
impact me in the same way. I almost just glaze over it or just
mhm.
quickly pass it. It doesn't stick with me. And so I think too, we have to be careful as artists. It may be easy to say he growled, or like certain phrases that you read over and over and over again. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
I'm having like, I can't think of phrases right now, but
Girl, I read about, like, hockey player romances.
well, whatever it is, I'm sure there's certain
You know
lines.
what? I'm sure that they growl too. Yeah, you know what? Now that I think of it, there's growling all over the place.
Yeah, when he says like "come here," he
Yeah.
growls. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
always these phrases that we
Men are
use.
dogs.
And it is nice to have something that when you write it, it accurately depicts what you're writing, but it takes away from the power of your work. So I will
Completely agree.
stop myself from writing cliches because I will write and then I'll catch myself writing something like time passed slowly or
Mhm.
like something I can't think of something. But
Yeah.
then I'll stop myself and say, "Okay, yes, this gets the point across,
Mhm,
but it's
mhm.
not getting it across in the way that would be most impactful." So I'll erase that line and try and think of another way to describe it.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I can agree. I can agree with that. I take a lot of inspiration off of what I've seen other writers do, not necessarily in their prose, where it's specifically like the line that they wrote, but there's so much artistry in what goes unsaid in
You are so good at this.
in it's okay. I'll put it this way. If you've ever taken a still life drawing class or any sort of drawing class, you will remember that the teacher just harped on negative space. How negative space, it's that space between the objects in a still life, between even a figure drawing class, like if someone's posing, you don't draw them like a human being, you draw them like a bunch of shapes put together. Um, and like you draw them almost in abstract. You have to think of them abstractly in relation to the empty space that's around them between their, like if their hand is on their hip, that space between their arm and the rest of their body. You have to think about that. And that can often define what you're ultimately trying to draw more. And you see that in other people's writing as well. It's what is going unsaid? How are they crafting their negative space so that you as the reader understand what's going on and don't understand? What is the mystery that they're building? What are the secret clues that they're feeding you? And seeing kind of the architecture of how they put that together, how the greats put that together. Like that's the benefit of reading a great writer. Um, you can and just really trying to sit with their techniques in that way, that that's kind of what I try to pull from. So
You are a master at that. Listeners, I just read a piece from Liza where don't cover your face. Where they went to a party, her characters went to a party, and there was a bunch of dialogue at this party, but you were not interested in the dialogue, you were interested in what was not being said, and I have never read a scene like this. I really truly haven't. I'm not just
Aw,
blowing smoke up your
thank you.
tush. I'm really mean this. I have never read a scene where the tension was in nothing that was on the pages. Nothing
Thank you.
you wrote. I don't even know how you did it. I can't even explain it because it was so good. I'm serious.
Thank you. That was the ambiance.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of craft work went into that chapter. And one thing that I'm really inspired by, actually, some of the best advice comes from, movie directors,
Mm.
unbelievably,
Mhm.
or very believably, that some of the best dialogue writing advice I ever heard was Alfred Hitchcock. And okay, I'm going to be terrible at this because I don't have his quote in front of
Mhm.
me,
Just
but it's
paraphrase.
essentially what he said was, you can't have the characters always talking about what is directly happening in the plot. You have to have them speaking in such a way. He called it the bomb beneath the table, where it's like your characters are having a conversation that is constantly playing with the idea that they that there's a bomb beneath the table that's going to explode everything in their world, that's going to make everything fall apart. And the reader or the audience member knows that the bomb is there and is watching it tick away and going, oh my God, do these people know about the bomb? Are they talking about the bomb? Are they going to address the bomb? Like, what is going to happen? So you can see it in his movie Rope. Do you know the premise of Rope?
No.
It's like literally this. So basically, the premise is that I think it was like, I saw it a long time ago. It was like two philosophy students who were talking about, like, they were used to discussing, morality, issues of morality, and like, is it okay to kill a person? They, at some point, that transcends from talking about it to actually having done it, and they kill someone. I forget who it is. I saw this a really long time ago. Sorry. But they essentially like put them in a trunk and they run out of time for some reason to get this body out of the apartment where they're hosting a party that night. And then
Ugh.
the entire movie is all these guests gathered around a big trunk and like they put a like candelabras on it and all this kind of stuff. And like there's a dead body in the room. And everyone's having their party and having their conversations about what they want to talk about. But there's also a body there. And the whole time you're like, my God, are these philosophy students going to be found out? Etc., etc., etc. What are they going to do to get this body out of there?
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it's a great concept. And so like he literally like plays that advice out like in a movie, but you can also use it figuratively in any work that you do in order to up the tension. And
Yeah,
I don't know, I think about him all the time.
that's awesome. So much to learn from other creatives in all
Yeah.
different types of art.
Yes, exactly. What have we covered? We've covered music. We've covered movies. What's your
TV,
Wait, have we
books,
done have we done TV? Have you been inspired anything by anything specific in television recently?
all the time. I watch
Yeah.
so many series. What I really take away from TV series is how they plant a seed in episode 1 and how that seed blooms into a major subplot point by the
Hmm.
end of the season.
Yeah.
I've really taken from that how to plant clues in my thrillers for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching how television series are structured is also like that's daunting to
Oh my
me.
gosh. Yes, yes. You have to really plan ahead on that.
And yet somehow I don't think they do.
I know, I know. Or like different writers will work on different episodes. I just can't
Hmm.
wrap my head around that.
I mean, TV's also different now. It's so like everything's so prestige. It used to be, I actually don't know how they did it in the past, where it was like 30 episodes a season. How did those writers' rooms come up with so many ideas constantly?
Oh,
Like,
I know.
it's
Genius.
insane. Yeah.
But imagine if you're in a room full of authors. I'm sure with all of those minds bouncing ideas off each other, they're going to be coming up with endless ideas.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You're riffing. You're riffing.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, now that we've talked about how much we can learn from other creatives, let's throw some tomatoes at them.
Okay.
Do you want to read
Tomatoes.
your So for our new listeners, each week we throw a tomato at a literary classic
Mm.
to desensitize us to the inevitable criticism and bad reviews we're going to get, and to also show that no matter how successful you are, you're going to get bad reviews and it's just a part of the job. So,
Okay.
with that being said, let's throw our tomatoes.
I can go first if you
Okay,
want.
sure.
So my book is set in the 1920s, so I decided to do a review of The Great Gatsby. And this one, it was a 2-star review, and it just, I don't know, it made me smile. I'm gonna read it. So this is for The Great Gatsby from well, I'm not gonna say the name. Anyway, I want to say the title too. Suppose you could read it so you can say you did. Just realized I bought this book and never finished it. I know it's a classic, really tried to like it. Started out thinking, quote, wow, this Fitzgerald guy is quite a writer. Considered all of the description, I suppose he is a literary craftsman. But as the pages went by, nothing really happened. With the outpouring of words, I never felt like I knew or cared about the characters. Maybe that's how the 1% live. Maybe that's the point. But I just didn't get any energy from it. Certainly not any good energy. Not clever, suspenseful. The mystery of a rich single guy's past can only carry a plot so far. Not particularly thought provoking. One can only take so much yearning and wistfulness. I must have set the story down and never thought to pick it up again. Maybe someday I'll get stuck in an airport and finish it, and maybe discover that it gets really exciting at the end. Somehow it doesn't matter. For me, the energy was all wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. I I thought I was like, I hope you do know what happened at the end because it does get exciting.
It does.
Uh,
It does get very exciting in the end.
and it was a very thought-provoking book and it was beautifully written.
Ugh.
I couldn't disagree more with this fellow. But I just thought it was really enjoyable because it seemed like he just needed to read a different type of book.
Yeah. Maybe
Seemed
that
like
book was not for them.
yeah. It's like I think that there are tons of different kinds of readers, and you can read whatever the hell you want to.
Yep.
Really.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Well, my bad review is for Rebecca. After I was coming up with our genre blending segment, I
Oh,
thought, well, a lot of people love it, but let's find someone who doesn't love it. So
okay.
this person gave it 2 stars. The title is How Much Time Do You Have? And it says, it would have made a brilliant 250-page book. At 480 pages on Kindle, it is a slog. How many paragraphs do you need to read about the sunshine coming in the windows of the library, or fog over Manderley, or her sitting at the feet of her husband like their spaniel? The only thing I can recommend is to skip a great deal. You will still get a thrill at the last 50 pages.
Oh no. No, don't read to skip.
I know.
Ah, just read something else.
I know. I know. Yep. So there you have it.
Yeah, that's what I think. I generally don't like to tell people what to do, even though I don't know, maybe I'm spending this entire podcast telling people what to do. But like, I don't understand reading a book just to skip a bunch of it. This I think that that's just a personal preference on my part.
Hmm.
I'm also a really slow reader, so I like to I like to indulge and sit with something for a long time. What about you?
Yeah, I don't skip either
Hmm.
because I feel like if the author put the words, they matter to the author and they're contributing to the book in some way. And maybe that's because I'm an author, so I every word I write has to be
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
So I try and take it all in. I also don't just read for plot. I read for
Hmm.
I think some people just want to know what happens. So that's probably why they
Yeah.
skip ahead. They don't want to sit and read the prose about the light coming in through the window. Whereas I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, what a beautiful description of this light.
Yeah.
So I think people
Yes.
get different things out of
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially like if you are reading as a professional creative where you're like,
Hmm.
I really want to know how you wrote about that light coming in.
Yeah. How in the world did you find a new way to describe sunlight?
Yeah, I'm constantly racking my brain about this.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
did it. So,
Well, let's move on to our last segment, which
yes.
is questions from our listeners. Do you want to go first or me?
No, you can go first.
So this one is from Anna. It says, how can I promote my self published book? It seems like I'm shouting into a void. And wow, that is hard. And I think so
I
many people struggle with that.
feel like that's a topic for an entire episode,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
you know.
And maybe that's what we
Um,
can do is break down marketing in an episode one
mhm.
time. But Anna, I'm here for the struggle. I know it's hard, but I wrote down just some quick ideas for you to get you started on your journey. One, social media is extremely important. Hence why we started this is trying to put ourselves out there, put a face to the books. People want to see you. So get on social media and then you can reach out to influencers, micro influencers, macro influencers, and offer to send them a free copy of your book in exchange for a review on their platform. I think that would be really helpful. And just to have your own page as well where you post regularly. I know it's hard, but just try. You could start a Substack newsletter with updates. You can engage with other authors and join author groups. And you should try reaching out to local bookstores for signings and see if they'll stock your books. A lot of bookstores love to celebrate local authors. So
True.
try and reach out and say, I'm a local author. Would you be open to stocking my books? And I would be willing to come and do a signing event. and let's connect. So good luck with promoting. I know it's so hard, but don't give up the fight. You got this. And congratulations on finishing a book.
Yes. Congratulations. Awesome. So mine is from Sam. Excuse me. Mine is from Sam. And it's a pretty simple question. It's, what do you guys think about fan fiction? Um, well, I've definitely written my fair
You
amount of fan
have?
fiction. Yes, I have. That's
About
how
what?
I started really writing in earnest. Well, obviously Harry Potter.
Yes.
I dabbled a little bit in Harry Potter when I
And
was
Draco
very
and
young.
Hermione?
No, I've never been into that. I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I only read and write about canon character pairings. So they have to be defined in the actual show, in the actual book, as already potentially a couple in order for me to like it. That's my thing. Anyway, I was a big anime person. So I wrote anime
I
fan
love
fiction.
that. I love that about you.
What
Everything I
about
learned
you?
about you makes me love you more.
I think that this is a good question because there are tons of authors that hate fan fiction.
What?
Yeah. I mean,
Why?
Anne Rice absolutely despised the fan fiction. She did not want any fan fiction of her work to be out there. I think to this day, like fan fiction hosting websites, like you can't write Interview with a Vampire fan fiction and get it published there. Yeah. It's like some authors are very like, I do not want any of my work to be fan fictionized. I mean, would you like any of your work to be fan fictionized? What do you think about that?
I honestly have never given that a thought once in my life. So that's something I'm going to have to think about. But I could just go on my initial gut reaction, which is that would be extremely flattering that someone
Yeah.
cared about my characters so much to want to write about them.
I I think so too. I think that with Anne Rice, like her, I mean, she got so big with Interview with a Vampire that it's just like maybe once you get that big, you have to make decisions where you're like, okay, I'm big. Now I can make decisions like a big
Hmm.
person.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm sure there's so much more complexity to that, like money and marketing and ownership of the characters. I'm not sure because I had to sign a bunch of things about that, about what do
Mm,
I own. So I think it's probably a bigger question that needs more of a more thoughtful answer on my part because I
hmm.
honestly don't know too much about it. I can just go on feeling, which is that would be so nice if someone wanted to.
Yeah, I think for her, it was basically like the only fan fiction that would have existed would have been between Lestat and what's the main character, Louis, like them having gay romances or whatever. And she was just like, they weren't gay.
Oh,
My vampires can't have sex. Like they had a different type of relationship. I think that was it for her, where she was just like, I just don't want people to indulge in that. Like I don't want them to indulge in misinterpreting, miswriting my characters. And I'm like, I don't feel the same way. I'm just like, do whatever you want.
yeah, I feel the same way. I would read about them together.
I mean, if they both look like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, yeah, absolutely. That's how I imagine them.
Yeah.
So, Sydney, I have a
Mhm,
question for you.
mhm,
So, as a writer, you are going to have to submit your work to many different people,
mhm.
to beta readers, to agents, to editors. And how seriously do you think you should take their feedback? How to heart do you think you should take it?
Ooh, that is a wonderful question, but unfortunately, we are out of time and are going to have to cover it next week.
No. Okay, great.
Yes. So tune in next week and we will answer that question. And if you have other questions, we love to hear from you. Please email us at pagefrightcontact@gmail.com. That's pagefrightcontact@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in today, and we look forward to seeing you or having you hear us next week.
Yes. Bye.
You just listened to Page Fright. Don't forget to like and subscribe and write to us at pagefrightcontact@gmail.com.